Bueno, chicos, ya tenía ratísimo de no hacer videitos, pero bueno, en esta ocasión vamos a empezar hablando de temas bastante interesantes e importantes, pero mayormente, esto va a ser tema muy técnico, muy informativo, y para toma de decisiones muy buenísimo. Así que este video no se va a tratar mucho de programación, sino que decisiones. Antes de que nos metamos en cuestiones de programación, necesitamos entender por qué tomar una decisión y por qué no tomarla y en qué condiciones tomarlas. Totalmente vamos a estar de acuerdo en muchas cosas o tal vez en ningunas. No hay ningún problema porque cada quien toma las decisiones dependiendo en lo que tiene a mano, ¿no? Entonces, en este caso, esto, como lo dice el título, vamos a iniciar una serie de cómo lograr terminar y claramente, mayormente los sistemas en el que yo me he metido, no es por decir, pero he logrado llevar su vida útil a la conclusión. Ya, entonces se concluye su construcción a llegar a completar todo. Así que muy importante, lo que tenemos pensado o lo que tenemos pensado hacer es construir un sistema más o menos que llegue cerca, no igual, pero cerca de la experiencia de desarrollo de Vercel y también de Railway. Mayormente Railway es bastante buenísimo para cuando, no simplemente para en TypeScript, sino que también es bueno para Python, también para PHP, lo he probado. Así que este es como multiplataforma donde puedes hacer un deploy de PHP, un deploy de TypeScript, un deploy de Python, ¿no? Para tus aplicaciones, muy importante. Lo segundo es que Vercel se enfoca más que todo en React y Next.js, que eso pues es su enfoque, ¿no? Porque tiene una experiencia de desarrollo muy alto, igual como Railway, ¿no? Y pues nosotros enfocándonos a esto, vamos a tocar
términos muy técnicos, puede ser que la persona que se una y sabe de DevOps va a entender muchísimos estos términos, porque mayormente aquí es donde entra lo que le llaman DevOps. Entonces, DevOps significa mayormente la parte de la arquitectura, de... Ok, un pequeño pelín de problemita. Aquí vamos a nosotros tomar decisiones antes y vamos a dibujarlo cómo más o menos yo voy a llegar a una conclusión de poder llegar a concluir esto, porque estamos hablando de empresas ya grandísimos y a nivel, y llegar a crear algo similar a ese nivel, pues necesitamos personal, finanza y todo ello. Así que vamos a intentar desagregar, separarlo por partes y luego vamos a ir atacándolo poco a poco, y incluso lo voy a involucrar un poquito cuando yo le esté ya más o menos publicando los sistemas. En este caso, supongamos un sistema de almacenamiento o de creación de base de datos, deployment de la aplicación, cómo lo estoy haciendo, porque acuérdense de que esto vamos a automatizarlo, ¿no? Porque totalmente nosotros queremos una experiencia casi similar a ellos. Así que, pues, sin más preámbulo, vamos a iniciar atacando cómo nosotros podemos llegar a esos niveles tan altos, ¿no? Vamos a separar en este caso a Vercel primero, vamos a desagregar su sistema. Vamos a tocar el de Railway, lo vamos a desagregar un poco y de aquí nosotros vamos a separar partes para nosotros poder llegar al punto donde queremos, ¿no? Entonces, primero tenemos Vercel, que en este caso Vercel yo creo que hay un problemita con la red, como que se cae y se regresa. Pero bueno, en fin. Railway tiene como unas separaciones, en este caso, una, ¿cómo se llama? Por contenidor y pues unos orquestador de esos servicios, ¿no? Ok, entonces, primero vamos a enfocarnos en las tecnologías que ellos utilizan mayormente o están enfocados, ¿no? Entonces, en este caso, mayormente su fuerte es este señorito, React. Y como React es una librería bastante famosa y ahora ellos crearon a este señorito un framework que se llama Next.js. Entonces, esto está creado a base de este señorito. Ya, entonces, ellos se enfocaron más que todo en React y Next.js. Y estos están totalmente dentro del ecosistema, que en este caso sería Node.js. Así que si vemos el ángulo más o menos más claro, en este caso, ellos utilizaron o están utilizando estas tecnologías para estos tipos de enfoque, ¿no? Entonces, por eso el enfoque en el que yo o la propuesta está sentado encima es el enfoque a Python en este caso, pero más o menos quiero que veamos cómo nosotros estamos, o sea, totalmente viendo cómo están desarrollados estas tecnologías como Vercel, como Railway. Ok, entonces Vercel y se enfocó en React. Luego construyeron un framework a base de React, se llama Next.js, pero todos estos dos señoritos están dentro de Node.js. Entonces, fuerte de Vercel es Node.js, en fin, y al cabo. Esa sería más o menos la parte de arquitectura en este caso. Así que, ¿qué es lo que pasa cuando nosotros queremos más o menos subir una aplicación Por acá, de este lado, nosotros vamos a tener nuestro repositorio. En este caso, lo vamos a hacer un poco grande. No, pequeñito. A ver. Sí, pequeño. Este va a estar conectado totalmente. Y este va a estar conectado con esto. Entonces, esta arquitectura, más o menos, si están viendo, nuestra aplicación, esto, my app, en este caso, my app local, nuestra aplicación va a estar en local. Subimos a GitHub. GitHub crea como una especie de aplicación, un hook que totalmente con actions, claramente, lo que hace es más o menos subir a los servicios de Vercel y dentro, como va toda la arquitectura del package y package log, claramente ellos lo que van a hacer es empezar a crear el Node.js, pero dentro de esos paquetes están las instalaciones de los paquetes, que en este caso va los paquetes que van relacionados a React y los paquetes que van relacionados a Next.js. Y en fin y al cabo es Node.js. Así de esa manera sencilla, ¿no? Entonces, Next.js es un poco de esa manera. Next.js es más enfocado a un solo nicho que es, pues, TypeScript en este caso. Tu fuerte, más o menos, mayormente, el lenguaje de programación que viene aquí es TypeScript y JS. Mayormente ya saben de que TypeScript es JavaScript, pero JavaScript con asteroides, no con baterías en este caso, porque te ayuda a escribir mejores códigos, que ahora con IA no tiene mucha importancia. Pero bueno, en fin. Sí, antes sí, porque acordate que autocompletado, imagínate todo eso, era complicadísimo porque en JavaScript no tenías autocompletados como lo tenías con TypeScript. Pero con IA, pues, con con codificación de agéntica, es que perdió un poquito su... Ok, porque incluso a mí me encantaba TypeScript y me sigue encantando, pero ya no escribo mucho como antes, como solía escribir bastante a TypeScript. Ok, en fin, en resumen cuenta, Vercel es la plataforma y su nicho es Node.js, donde está React, Next.js y un conector con GitHub para poder hacer el deploy lo más rápido posible, una experiencia de desarrollo brutal. Ok, vamos a enfocarnos en Railway. Railway es medio, podríamos decir, como mixto, ¿no? Railway es mixto. Este me tiene un montón de servicios que hay veces yo me quedo como, ¿por qué tantos servicios? Ya, entonces lo vamos a poner como un poco de mixto, entonces, porque este es un mix que tiene, en este caso, que puedes hacer con, vamos a ir directo lo que son los servidores mejor, porque por ejemplo el servidor Node.js, el servidor Python, el servidor PHP, ya, porque ese totalmente vendría siendo los servicios que podríamos enfocarnos un poquito más, porque si nosotros vamos a decir de que, como les dije, Node.js es el que engloba a React y a Next.js porque es allí donde están corriendo todo. Entonces, aquí vamos a decir que puedes tener un Node.js, puedes tener un Python, pues en este caso con Python recuerden de que va a ir el Pass API y ese montón de otros, ¿no? Entonces, y con PHP nosotros vamos a poner Franken, no el Frankenstein, pero el Franken. Vamos a ponerle, yo creo que no se escribe así, pero que importa. La intención es que entiendas de que Railway es como un medio mixto. Railway no se enfocó en un solo nicho, sino que se enfocó en diferentes nichos, ¿no? Railway se enfocó en lo que Node.js, Python, Fast API y PHP pues con Franken, ¿no? Ok, en este caso, al ser mixto, o sea, al ser mixto, no podías abarcar todo en un servidor donde tú vas a pensar de que te va a venir las cosas ordenadas en sí. Entonces, ¿qué fue lo que ellos inventaron? Bueno, inventaron y dijeron, pues que es súper buenísimo, Docker. Lo que hicieron fue dockerizar, ¿no? Entonces, un Docker puede ser un Node.js, un Docker puede ser un Fast API, un Docker puede ser un Frankenstein en este caso. Así que agarraron estas tecnologías, lo dockerizaron y luego lo que más o menos establecieron fue orquestar. Entonces, yo creo que eh, orquestar, yo creo que algo así es que lo llaman. Pero bueno, un controlador que maneja a dónde van más o menos los dockers, ¿no? Entonces, estas tecnologías vinieron, se conectaron a un docker. Y este docker tiene que ir a un servidor, mayormente. Ah, ok, ok. Sí, acabo de leer unos comentarios. Sí, vamos a intentar hablar en inglés un poquito luego, después de explicarlo también, pero bueno, ok. Em, ok, entonces, en fin, más o menos, cuando el Docker termina siendo, va a ir más o menos orquestado por este señorito y esta parte no cambia mucho. Esta parte no cambia. Lo que vamos a hacer es, lo voy a eliminar estos señoritos de aquí porque no tiene mucho sentido. Aquí. Ok, va aquí. Entonces, ¿qué pasa? Tu aplicación Python, tu aplicación PHP, tu aplicación Node.js, subes a GitHub y boom, y ya lo tienes listo. Y eso es Railway. No, entonces, esta es la manera más o menos como estas tecnologías funcionan internamente. Entonces, lo que quiero más o menos es construir todo este módulo, pero solo enfocado en uno, como lo es Vercel. Vercel, su nicho es React, Next.js y Node.js, muerto, no hay otra más. Mientras que Railway es mixto, es complicado, un poco más complicado con esto. Okay. Um, okay, let me try to introduce you what I'm trying to do in this case, in this drawing. The intention of this video is I'm going to create a type of video series how to accomplish a Vercel-like and Railway to build a platform where you can deploy your app. Same like when you are deploying using Vercel Vercel platform. So what I'm talking about is that how Vercel internally or technically close, not specific completely, but the idea, you know. So the Vercel section is that Vercel choose React for to start working in that library, and after choosing React, they choose to build a framework for React, which is Next.js. So the idea of that Vercel is a specific niche in this case. So after building Next.js, the need of Node.js was already there because Node.js is the server in this case which handle the TypeScript and the JavaScript. So after building the Node.js environment totally, what was very clear is to connect to GitHub. In this case, you connect your GitHub to Vercel platform and your local app goes to GitHub and through GitHub Actions go to Vercel platform service in this case, and then it's get deployed. So this is going to get a domain, a specific domain, and then it's going to you're going to have your application already deployed. But we're going to build this from scratch, you know. We're going to build, but not completely everything, but the idea, and you can learn something from this video series, how this work, or how Vercel work in this case. Because this is almost everything is going to be more focused on DevOps. Artificial intelligence going to help a lot in this case for decision, but experience going to change everything in this case, because you need to know how and why and when to choose one platform from the others, because it's depending on your needs. Okay, and the difference is that Railway have the same focus in DevX, in this case, developer experience, which is very close or almost identical to Vercel in terms of experience, but Railway is quite kind of mixed in this case. Railway is not niche focused because it have Node.js internally. You can deploy Python fast API. You could deploy PHP with Franken in this case. And that's why how they focus on different platform in this case, or different service, they decide to use Docker. Difference between Next.js in this case, as you can see, they choose Node.js for everything, because they're using everything in Node.js platform in this case, because everything is going to be packaged, in this case, package installation, package lock, all those, it's going to be Node.js. So there is no need to have any complicated environment. No, so they focus on Node.js. Okay, the difference in Railway is that why they choose Docker, because Docker is very specific for the platform in this case. If you are doing Python, the Docker is going to go everything what Python needs. In this case, installation of the package. In this case, if you are using UV or if you are using pip. Okay, in PHP, if you are using Composer, what package installation you're going to use. So in this case, the Composer is going to be in that Docker. So there not going to be issue when you are doing this type of type of deployment in this case, because it's mixed. Okay, so when you have a lot of Docker, you need an orchestrator in this case. One of the best platform, which is that when you deploy a Docker, this it's who in charge of deciding in which cluster that Docker is going to be put in this case. Let's say maybe Railway hire in the AWS data center, maybe it got about 5 instances, and the instance 2 and instance 3 are available. So the orchestrator is going to say, okay, I have 2 instances, have space for this Docker section. So the Docker which it's coming in, it's going to go to the instance number 2 in the cluster number 2. So it's going to package there. So this way you're going to have your local app deployed, and you're going to push to GitHub, and then you're going to hook that GitHub to the Railway platform. But in this case, internally, it's going to be orchestrated with this this man, which is in charge to order everything. In this case, the decision maker. So that is the sum up, in this case, the everything what we are thinking now to do. So coming back, in this case, we're going to separate this, because this is huge. This is not just because I'm explaining so easy way, because I understand those, and I've been working with the two platforms from years now, because and before artificial intelligence, I was working with Vercel, I was working with Railway, so I already know how internally they work, because I have experience working with DevOps, lot of years now. I have more than 10 years of working in software development, so I know mostly about this. So that's why my programming language in this case it's TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, PHP. So if you ask me about Java, yes, yeah. Okay. C Sharp, no, because C Sharp, I used to work with C Sharp too. I used to work with C Sharp. C Sharp was one of my first programming language. Okay, so focus on this. What we're going to start building is Vercel Live. We're going to focus on Python. And we're going to use, in this case, maybe Docker or Focus and things like that. So, but we're going to focus on Python for this, because my proposal, which I start in LinkedIn in this case, which I was asking for friends to join in this um, in this creation of Vercel and Railway Lake servers. So when I asked, my proposal was very clear that I was thinking to build a Python focus service, which like should be like Vercel or Railway, no? So that is the main goal. The main goal. So now let's start, let's say, separating in parts. Okay, mostly one application have three sections. In this case, files, database, and okay, environment. This three section is the important or the mainly used in this case. Okay, the files is the where you're going to store your application files, because it's not a good practice that you're going to upload your files in your server, in that same server which you are deploying your application, and in that same server you have your database, and in that same server you have your environment, which is not a good practice in this case. That's why the decision make with Vercel makes is that you deploy your application only, and then I'm going to give you the chance of you choosing what kind of database or ORM you want to choose to work with. We are offering database and we are offering application deployment, but not everything in that same cluster. In this case, it's a separate cluster. So the good part of this is that in Vercel term, you can choose your files, your database, and your environment. In this case, your environment, go to Vercel. Your database, you can choose from anywhere if you want, and your files storage, in this case, where you're going to store the files and request the files, so on. So normally, sometimes you use S3 bucket, or sometimes you just use Cloudflare, which is very fast because these have cache things in this case when it's static files, and S3 bucket have that too. So that's why those are two options, very common in this case. Okay, for database, whatever you want to choose in this case, we are not mentioning because there is MySQL, Postgres, and SQLite even. So depends. Okay, so in this case, your application is going to have this. So we're going to separate this in three sections. Okay, first of all, how we know that any application need a file storage? Any application, even just for profile, imagine you need a file storage where you want to store your files. So mainly having available a file management, which make very easy. Just I install a package, and that package is going to give you to upload and make CUD operation to that file. Make sense because and this increase your development experience because you are not thinking and okay, I'm going to create a S3 bucket. Now I need a security group. Okay, now I need a folder where I'm going to storage. Now I need to include that in my that end file, and then now I need to create a IAM user IAM, which is the section where you're going to okay. And what if you have more than one application? You have two application, three application, and this repetitive situation, it's not good. Okay, so next thing, what we're going to do is that we're going to focus on this first section is file manager. Okay, so my first step, we're going to start building, and you're going to experience how it's going to be built and everything I'm going to explain in this case, because I'm going to explain in this video, in this same channel, start explaining the file manager and how we're going to, I'm going to be focused on developer experience, because the idea is that from developer to other developer, this have to be easy implementation. Even you could copy the documentation link and give to IA, implement this and create a file manager where I can upload things like that, and you already have done, because IA should analyze that information and things like that. So that's the idea. Okay, so now let's start separating this file management and how we're going to start building technically in this case. Okay, so my intention is to start from step by step. So in this video series, we're going to start building step by step, where you can choose by your own decision. Okay, we're going to focus on one of this one. So Azure is a good choice for file management in this case, for file storage. I have experience working with Azure. AWS is a good option. I think I have learned to work with AWS. Yes, yes. It was 2016 when I joined AWS to start working on file management in this case. So, yes, Azure, I have about maybe more than 5 years working with creating servers, doing deployments, things like that. But yes, AWS is go-to choice, I think, in this case. But currently, we have those two options. So what we're going to create is that we're going to first focus on the file management, which is going to use one of these data centers. So the file manage manager is going to have, for security reason, okay. So we're going to focus on one of these. Just imagine one of anyone. The file manager is going to confirm by a user, in this case, the controller, who is going to be controlling the system. Because remember, you're going to create a user which is going to be in charge of that storage section, in this case, on the server, in the data centers, in this case, in this section. And then we need to create a token. In this case, let's say you're going to create one application, and then you're going to create token for the application, and you're going to copy the token, and then you're going to put in, let's say, in the M, for security reasons, in the M file, which you're going to call it maybe upload thing token, and then you're going to use that token as the application link, no? So that's the idea, because remember, and if the token gets leaked, you just change the token. That's all. And even for security reason, you could change the token monthly, because this is that's the idea which I have. Monthly, I'm going to be changing the token, in this case, the access key and the secret. This should be changing every month by security reason. But if you are maybe working, you are single person who, or maybe freelancer, and just maybe experimenting with file management, and if you want to, let's say, test the platform which we are building, you can do it anyway. Okay, and the storage, in this case, maybe the storage is going to be separated in maybe in plans or things like that, so you need a strategy which you want to have, because this complicate a bit, in this case, this okay, cache. Yeah, this complicate things. The storage things, it's not quite easy decision. I already see this. Yeah, okay. Let's just put plans in this case. So the storage it's going to have for plan, in this case, maybe you have free plan, paid plans, and usage base, where people going to use that service, because you're going to give them a developer experience which they're not going to be struggling in Azure and AWS. But if they want, they could do, because that's the idea. If you know about AWS, go to AWS. It's more easy, but where you have that idea, in this case, to log in, sign in, and go to security and things like that, So all those headache, all those struggle thing, in this case, we're going to reduce that flow in plans. So instead of you struggling for each application, storage, things like that, we're going to give you a plan. Use this for this and that. Yeah, this is complicated, quite complicated even for me to explain how it's going to be. Yes. All right, we're going to do that. Yeah, I want to put this question mark because I don't know currently how this is going to be finished building, because technically that's the idea. Have a plan for storage base. That's all I know. Okay. The good part, and when we reach to this, in this case, is it's going to connect with your application. So this is the good part. So your application it's going to have a single token API, and now it's going to have a request, in this case, to request for the file, and the API which is going to be available, it's going to respond to you with that. So the good part of these APIs, what we need, because we need to think about that the server in this case, which we are choosing in this case, where we're going to put that APIs, we need a fast, in this case, we need a fast server which can handle maybe 2 workers in this case. Mainly when I was learning in C#, they call it threads. In this case, they call it thread because you have a 2 worker which is going to concurrently grab the request, and one goes for this task. When it's finished, it's come back, and the other one is already serving another task. So when the main thread capture the incoming, no, the response is going to be by 2. So this way of concurrent answering, it's very fast when you are building applications that have multi-threading in this case. So we need a way of do this kind of idea, multi-threading application for API requests, because we can receive a lot of requests and the server should be responding in each fastest possible. Okay, but there is another strategy which is very important when you are talking about APIs cache. So instead of answering so fast, we're going to cache the files in this case, not the file itself, but the pre-assigned link in this case. Okay, so Azure and AWS, they manage pre-assigned files. So they already, the links is already exist. So there is no need to go to AWS or go to Azure and ask for the pre-assigned URL when you already have that pre-assigned URL. Okay, so our strategy for API is going to have cache control, which is very important. Pre-assigned URL, and let's say we're going to have not only pre-assigned URL, but a timer, because it makes sense in this case. With expire time. Okay, so the intention is that this is not going to be a simple file management. As you can see, the structure is going to be quite complex, but internally, it's going to be handling a lot of requests, which it's going to be quite complex, because the multi-threading should know about the cache, about the pre-assigned URL, and about the pre-assigned URL which is going to expire. So we need to control all of this internally. So this is the idea of the service in this case. So the file manager is going to have APIs which your application going to have the ability by default in this case, because you already have a plan in this case, but I don't know about the plan yet. That's the complicated part. So when you already have a plan in this case, you're going to make requests to the API, and then you're going to have, if you, let's say you already request the image, the first image. So you load the pre-assigned URL, and when you request it again, there is no need to go look to the database about that file and then get the pre-assigned URL from the Azure or AWS and return to the response. No, there is no need. What we going to do? we're going to cache that. If the file not been deleted or there is no changes, why we're going to go to the database, why we're going to go to search for pre-assigned URL cache, because we're going to have more efficient and fast response time. Pre-assigned URL, in this case, you're going to have by application level. In this case, you're going to get, let's say, maybe you can request a 50 file in this case, those in cycle. Let's say you have a list of products. So you're going to get that pre-assigned URL. And don't matter if you are using web application or React Native, in this case, mostly it's mobile, no? So mobile application, because request is everywhere. API is everywhere. So we're going to build, let's say, a dynamic section, because we don't want to focus on only maybe TypeScript or maybe only in Python or PHP. So we're going to focus on three of that programming language. It's programming language in this case. So we're going to create a type of package. Yes, I think my internet connection it's facing some issues. So facing issues. So okay, I think we already okay. So pre-assigned URL, but with expire in this case. The idea is this: is that let's say you're going to you want to secure that after maybe 10 minutes, I want this file to be private. But you're going to publicate, you're going to put, or you're going to get a pre-assigned URL for 10 minutes, and then it's going to expire. So you're going to make sure that those file it's not going to have the link in this case. So you can publicly make, say, let's say I want this file for maybe 10 minutes, and then you share that file, and after that time, the server should remove that pre-assigned URL in this case, because this name, like I said, scheduling in this case. So we're going to build a scheduling strategy where we're going to store the files with have pre-assigned URL with expire. So after that time, it's going to expire. So, well, now in summarizing, last but not least, in this case, the idea is to attack to file manager section first from this section, which we are trying to build a Vercel or Railway like application, but having or focusing always in developer experience. So if there are any comments or any questions which you would like to ask, well, I'm open and see if we can, if I can answer. No problem. If you have any doubts about it, I'm going to try to reply. Anyone? Okay. Um, okay, I'll be summarizing and ending the stream. So, okay, we start from here, which I explained. The Vercel is focused on TypeScript and JavaScript, which it's React based and JS and Node.js and Railway. Railway is quite mixed, and well, we're going to be building in this case those platform, in this case architecture and develop experience, like no. So we're going to focus on creating file manage or file storage first, which is very important that you can have, and you focus on only on your business logic in this case, instead of thinking where to deploy your files or things like that, you know. So we're going to have a file manager service, which is going to give you everything you need, but it's going to give you a secure way, because we are thinking security first. And with token, in this case, just you create your own tokens, and in this case, and then you just copy paste and you start uploading, you start um, making CRUD operation in the storage. In this case, we're going to have APIs, which is should be working very fast using cache techniques, and it should be multi-threading in this case, at least for me, like say maybe 2 workers, things like that. So, and it's going to have pre-assigned URLs, things like that. Okay, in this case, the main focus is that I think it's going to be there is a plan where you can have a free plan and paid plan. So how are you going to see everything? And nowadays, software development, it becomes quite quite easy, because because I think nowadays nobody is learning programming language anymore. I don't know if I'm wrong, because in let's say, oh no, I think even documentation is quite complicated to get involved. Oh my God. Yes, because even myself, I see agentic coding makes sense in this case. You just um, sure, technically you say this and that, this not, is aligned, but you are already dictating the business logic, not the strategy where you go to the coding and you are implementing the business logic. That was before IA in this case, but not the first age of IA, because first age of IA was only chat in the web, and that's all. But nowadays we have agents, agentic development, and so on, so on. So anyway, well, that's the idea. So you can stay for learn something about DevOps, because I'm going to be creating the video series, how I'm going to be creating step by step, and which platform I'm going to be choosing. But I think I already cleared that I'm going to be using AWS for this, but you can sure you can use Azure after the application strategy or the idea which I'm going to be explaining to you, and then you can go, because we want to create a secure way of the application. So that's why you're going to know the technical part, so you can create your own application too and offer the same idea. No problem to me. But the idea is that you can learn and understand how DevOps internally the systems work, in this case the servers. So that's the idea. Okay, so apart from Melo, sorry, okay, apart from Melo, because Melo asked me to talk in English, because I was talking in Spanish. In this case, normally I start talking in Spanish all the time, because yes. Okay, Melo. Well, anyway, um, welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining to the stream. And happy coding. See you in in next video, next stream, because remember, I think, yes, maybe tomorrow, yes, tomorrow I think I'm going to be maybe starting how I'm going to build and which technology, in this case maybe programming language, or which service I'm going to be using. Everything you can tomorrow. Yes, watch the other video which I'm going to share um, share with you. So thanks for having me.